I'm looking up into the clouds. I'm like this, all right, if you are real, show yourself to me, which I doubt if you're up there. I don't want to just read about you. I want to see something. Next thing you know, a couple of days later, I don't know how long ago it was, I was laying down and I felt a force pulling me up from my bed, straight up. And then next thing you know, I wake up, I'm laying on some clouds.
Frankie, you cried out for God to prove he was real. And what happened next took you from lying on clouds to standing face to face with Jesus himself. So Frankie, you got to tell me more. What happened?
Well, a while ago, this was maybe a couple of decades ago. Yeah, when I was my early 20s, I went to church. It was a youth group that was I used to be around my way, and they were telling me about, Jesus Christ and the creator of the universe. But back then, I'm like, well, I'm not too sure if this is real. I want to make sure I'm not being brainwashed. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people, they think they're brainwashed, but they don't know anything. They don't know any better. So they were telling me about, this Jesus is real and this and that, but I didn't really understand it really well. So one day I was after the youth group, I'm walking down the street and I'm looking up into the clouds. I'm like this, all right, if you are real, show yourself to me. And you know what I say? I say, which I doubt. I can't believe I said that. Yeah, I said that. I said it just like that. I guess he heard me. I was like, well, show yourself to me. You real? I don't want to just read about you. I want to see something. And I just can't believe I said, you know what? Show yourself to me, which I doubt if you're up there. And I'm like, well, next thing you know, like a couple of days later, I don't know how long ago it was. After what I said, then I was laying down and I felt a force pulling me up from my bed. Straight up. A powerful force. I couldn't, it had to be a spiritual force. Maybe he took my spirit and brought it up. And then next thing you know, I wake up and I'm laying on some clouds. I'm like, hey, what? I'm looking around like, I'm kind of like terrified. I'm seeing clouds everywhere. I'm like, yo, am I dreaming? Is this happening for real? I'm like, hey, I'm laying on a bunch of clouds. I'm looking around. I look down. I'm like, then I stand up and I'm like, I took a quick look. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. I saw clouds everywhere. I'm like, this is like a dream or something. And then I looked like straight to the corner, and there was like a little hallway, little corridor. So I walked towards the corridor, and there was a little kid with my complexion, and he was pointing. He told me, no, he didn't say it, he just went. He was pointing. So I'm walking down there, and there was more clouds. So then when I went through the corridor, I looked to the right, and there was a figure laying on a cloud. So I'm like, all right. So when I'm looking, I'm going in that direction, but it was some type of rage that was inside of me. I said, I want to know the truth. I want to know if this is real. Who are you? And then I looked real close to him, and then he shows me, he had like a white robe, and he had like the little holes in his hands when they nailed him on the cross. And when I took a good look at him, I was like, oh, I felt stupid, I felt like a dummy. I'm looking at him and like, this is what you wanted to see. Well, here it is. Well, he didn't tell me that, but that's what I was going. That's what was going through my mind. And then I just look at him, and then I looked at his hand, and I'm like, oh boy. Then I walked away, kind of like embarrassed and kind of messed up. So when you see something like that, you can't explain it. So then when I wake up, when I go back to the youth group, I told people, hey, this is what happened. Oh, he said, he heard you when you asked him, when you looked up to the cloud, and you said you wanted to see if he was there. And then you say, which you doubt, and then look what happened. And he showed you right there. And then I told a few people of mine, the ones in the church, they believe me. But other people who were not from the church, I told other people, and they were like, well, you was probably just dreaming. Hey, you was probably dreaming. That probably wasn't even real anyway. So, and guess what I was thinking? I was like, well, you're probably right. I shouldn't have done that. So that same day, or maybe a couple of days later, I'm laying down, And then I wake up, and then next thing you know, I'm in a coffin.
Whoa. Before we get back to the episode, if you're enjoying this interview, can you take a second to subscribe? It really helps us reach more people with these powerful stories. Thank you in advance. Now let's get back to the interview.
And I'm in a coffin. I'm looking around. I see a bunch of demons around me. I took a quick glimpse, and they were just looking at me like this, And I'm like looking around, I'm like, oh, this is no good. This is no good. And the first words that came out of my mouth is, oh my God, I didn't make it. I didn't make it. Yeah, and then after that, they closed the coffin, and I got up again, and I told, hey, look, this is what I saw. I saw demons around me. I saw this. I don't know where I was. I'm not sure if it was hell or not, because I was kind of scared when I saw those creatures around. They were surrounding the coffin. I'm like, oh boy. I told a few people. Some people believed me. Others were like, maybe you just had another dream like you had before. Then after that, I'm laying down in my room, right? I'm sleeping, and when you move around, sometimes you move around. Next thing you know, when I move around, I open my eyes a little bit, and there was a strong, powerful, bright light coming from the edge of the corner of this room. That light was something else. That light was probably there for a while, because I was just, laying down, sleeping. And when I wake up a little bit to move around, I saw that light. There was a figure standing in front of that light. I couldn't see the face, but I saw the silhouette of the person. And long hair, and the person had a robe. And he said with a loud voice, a voice that no audio equipment in the world could make this voice. He said, "Forgive him, Father, for he not know what he does." And when I took a good look, I said, wait a minute, this got to be him. This got to be him. Because think about it. I guess he came back to show me, look, I am real. You probably doubted me once, but then look, I'm here again. How he showed me right here in my room, I'm sure it was a vision. Was he standing here? Who knows? Maybe he was. But then after that, I was like, wow, I just can't believe this was good. Well, it had to be him. I know it has to be him, because there's no one who can do that, especially that voice that came out of his mouth. Very strong voice, very deep. Kind of shook me there when I heard that voice. Okay. So then fast forward a couple of decades later, like maybe last month, right? I have another vision. There was another vision where, I used to do deliveries on a truck and all that. And then I'm on a truck, and then next thing you know, the truck twist like this, like a swirl or something. I'm like, wait a minute. It didn't feel natural. It was swirling like this, left and right. And next thing you know, it seems like it looked like a cave or something. It looked like a cave, but there was like a big hole on the top of the cave, and there was something there. I couldn't really put I took a quick glimpse, and it looked like it was showing me like a bunch of numbers and letters going like this and all that. And then it said with a loud voice, "Return, return, return." And then I returned to it. I went straight to it like naturally. But that voice, I heard that voice before. When Jesus was like, when he said, "Forgive him, Father, for he not know what he does." I think that was the same voice that I heard earlier. But then he said, "Return, return," real loud. And I just went straight right into right where he was. Well, whatever that was there, because it didn't look human. Like I said, it looked like a bunch of numbers going like this and letters and all that. I don't know what it was. So I went straight in there. Woke up and said, something's going on here. Because I heard like I would return. Could it mean where I return to him, or soon maybe Jesus Christ is going to return? I'm not too sure. I wasn't too clear about it. I even asked what it was about. I didn't get the actual answer, because I prayed. I said, "Look, could you tell me what it is? I don't know who was that who said return, and what am I supposed to return to, or is it Jesus returning soon?" I didn't get no answer. So then, maybe a couple of weeks later, this was my last testimony. The last thing that happened to me. I had another vision, and I'm looking up. Right, I'm on Earth. I'm looking up to the moon. But when I see the moon, the moon doesn't look like the way it looks right now. It looks just like the earth. It has an atmosphere, it has clouds, it has water. So to me, that tells me that's like, when Jesus Christ is going to make people reborn from flesh and blood to spirit beings. So what I'm getting is, I guess he's going to, I see a vision in the future where the spirit born people who become spirit beings are going to help Christ fix all the problems, all the destruction that Lucifer left behind when he did all to all those planets. Remember what happened when Lucifer tried to overthrow God? Remember that? Right? He overthrew God, and he tried to overthrow God, but then he tried to destroy all the planets in the process. Because when God made those planets with Jesus Christ, he made those planets in a much better condition than they are right now. Because when they send astronauts in space, you're right, they send the satellites and they go to like the satellites to Mars and the moon, but those planets cannot produce, they cannot sustain life because of what Lucifer did. But I remember, wait a minute, when God created the planets, he created much better condition than the way they are right now. So in the future, when I saw that, I saw the earth, the moon looked like the earth with an atmosphere and water and clouds. That's how it's going to be in the future when God changes people from flesh and blood to spirit being, and they're going to help him first rule on the earth, fix the earth to the way it was when it was first created. Because you see the way the earth is right now, it's kind of messed up because of, human beings and the one who's ruling this planet right now. Because when God created the earth with Jesus Christ, it was in a much better condition. It didn't have no pollution. It didn't have no garbage. It didn't have nothing like that. So it seems like he's going to redo it again. He's going to need help redoing the earth again, bringing it right back to its original condition. And he's going to need spirit beings to do that and to fix all the other planets in the universe. Because you notice all the other planets like Jupiter, Saturn, it cannot sustain life, not the way it is. But God didn't make it like that. It's like that because of what Lucifer's rebellion against God. He did that with the demons when they rebelled. Since they disqualified themselves from the grand opportunity of God, what God was going to give them if they would have qualified to rule here on earth, he would have gave that opportunity to those angels to go out into the universe and re-beautify what was there. But since he disqualified himself, because of his vanity, he let vanity mess up his mind or something like that. So once he disqualified himself, he found out of reproducing himself and to see if human beings can qualify where Satan failed, so that way they can, like Jesus Christ qualified, so that way other people can qualify like Jesus Christ to come to help Jesus Christ rebuild the earth, and here give us the opportunity to qualify here and to go out into the universe and fix all the other planets that Satan ruined with his demons. So then after that, after I looked at the moon that looked just like the earth, with all the same conditions like the earth is, but without no pollution, no garbage, nothing like that. Then I turned to the right and I see a huge human being figure, like maybe 50 feet tall or higher, jump down from the sky, land on the earth. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, is that God? Is that God right there? Is that him? I wasn't too sure. Well, he had a white robe. He came down from the sky. He landed on the ground. He had a white robe. And as I was walking close to him to find out who he was, he shrunk in size. He went from 50 feet tall, maybe 60 feet tall, and he shrunk down to my height. Then I got close to him, but I couldn't see his face. But he had like white golden hair or something like that. And after that, that's it.
Wow, interesting. That's a lot of interesting experiences. Were you a believer growing up? Did you always believe in Jesus?
I wasn't too sure. I was, open-minded. I just wasn't too sure. Like, well, who's telling the truth? Because you have all these people who believe in all these different things, and when you're confused, you're like, all right, well, who's telling the truth? And how do I know who's telling the truth? Because there's so much garbage out there, so much different beliefs and here and there, so many different religions. You don't know who's telling the truth. So I wasn't too sure, but I was open-minded. I just wanted to find out the truth.
It's interesting how he said, "Forgive him, Father, for he does not know what he does." That's interesting.
That's what he said.
Wow. Well, you had all these years to process everything. What do you make of all of these experiences? Like, if you had to summarize, do you feel like it strengthened your faith? You don't doubt Jesus' existence anymore?
No, I know he's there. I know he's real. I know he's there. I pray to him. Sometimes, I get nervous when I pray. I got on my knees. I've seen other testimonies of other people. And I'm like, well, I got on my knees and I asked him to forgive me and forgive me for my carnal mind and my carnal heart, which we all acquired from Satan through Adam and Eve's disobedience in the garden. Remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because of that, because what they did, they disobeyed, and like God told Adam and Eve, hey, from all the other trees you can eat of, which represents God's nature and His Holy Spirit. From all the other trees you can eat of, except that tree over there. But then Satan came down and he got to Adam through Eve. He tricked her, but Eve disregarded what God said. Because then God told Eve too, don't eat from those trees. Only this tree you can eat. All these trees you can eat from, except that one. But they decided to disobey, and instead of God's nature and His character going into people's minds, plus His Holy Spirit would have went into Adam and Eve, and we would have gotten all that as well. They made a wrong choice, and I've even asked God to forgive them for that wrong choice, because now humanity is suffering because of that wrong choice, and now Satan's nature went right into Adam and Eve, and throughout all the generations that came out of Adam and Eve. That's why we're experiencing all these problems for thousands of years.
But thank God for what Jesus did on the cross. Thank God for His sacrifice. But yeah, I mean, what an experience you've had though, being on the cloud. Like when you were experiencing all those things, was it like as real as this life, or was it more like a vision?
It feels real and a vision as well, because Jesus Christ and God, they speak to people through visions too, to show them things.
But would you say that was more like a vision, or was it more like you were really taken up there?
I feel like if it was, I was really taken up there. That's what it felt like. That force bringing you up.
Well, that's interesting you say that force, because when I had here coming up today is the 3rd, September 3rd. On the 11th will be 1 year anniversary of 9/11, the towers, but also when I started the YouTube channel exactly a year ago. And 10 years ago, Jesus appeared to me, in a dream, and He told me to start this thing. I thought it was going to happen the next day, but it took like 10 years to finally do it. But it's interesting, when I got to that place, when I had that face-to-face encounter with Jesus in the dream, I went through that force, the same force that you describe. It was like, they're dreams, but then it was like a dream within a dream. And I just remember going like a rocket would go through this force, and it felt so good. It was just like, whoa. When I got to the other side, it's like almost a tunnel, but it felt, maybe I was just going so fast that it felt like I was in a tunnel. But when I got out on the other side, I remember moving my hands and just looking around. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like this is not a dream. I can move my hands. I can smell. I can, it was totally, totally different. And when I saw Jesus, like I remember what He smelled like. I remember what He wore, what He wore that day. We spoke spirit to spirit, like kind of like telepathically. But yeah, when you describe that pulling, that going through, I know exactly what you mean. I had a very similar experience. And I do believe that I was physically taken there, where my spirit was taken there. I remember being in another place, and it was supernatural. Well, Frankie, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Just in closing, for those that are still in the fence, that are doubting, what would you tell that person?
What I would tell that person? Just look at yourself and just think you came from somewhere. You didn't just pop into existence from nothing. Like a lot of scientists tell people, hey, we just came from an explosion, this and that, a Big Bang Theory. No, you came from somewhere. But the problem is, a lot of people think it's when they start thinking about it, I came from when they think about it, they're like, wait a minute, I came from somewhere, but where did I come from? When someone else tells them, hey, this is where you came. You're made in the image of God. That's where you came from. But they don't believe it because they're used to being in this flesh and blood body. They probably haven't experienced what we've experienced. And other people have experienced more than we have. You know, other people experience some serious spiritual connections there, spiritual experiences that I haven't experienced. Not like that. But everyone is different. So I would tell people, look, you came from somewhere. Yeah, but think about it. Go back all the way, all from your parents, and then all the way back to the human beings on the earth. The first ones has to be Adam and Eve. You didn't come from anywhere. You didn't just pop into existence. You came from somewhere. You came from a much more higher spiritual being. Remember, we're here because Lucifer failed. And since he failed, so God knew, from what I've read, God knew right away, once Lucifer failed, he can only rely on himself and beings like him to qualify and to rule the universe where Lucifer failed. So that's where you come from, because we are in his image. We're all in his image. So we actually come from him. But since people have never experienced it, that's why not to mention there's deceivers here on this planet trying to trick people and make them think, you didn't come from that, because they don't want you to know the truth. Because they know the truth. They disqualify themselves and they don't want human beings to know their potential. But you do come from, from God. That's where you come from. You were made after his image and Jesus Christ's image. You're here for a purpose, to build his holy, righteous character, so that way you can qualify where Satan failed. But you do come from we're all from the same blood. When you take yourself, when you just think, all right, if you do like a DNA test, where they have right now, go back all the way and it's going to go straight to Adam and Eve. That's where it's going to go. So you do come from you come from wonderful spiritual stock.
And when you put it that way, how can we mistreat our neighbors, right? People that we bump into in our life. How can we have enemies when, if you think about it, we're all part of him? And
yes,
it's easy to distance yourself from like, it's them versus us. But if you really zoom out and see how we're all so connected, when you're hurting your enemy, really you're hurting your brother, That's true. And that's powerful. Once you start thinking like that, it's life-changing. Well, Frankie, man, thank you so much. Appreciate you hopping on this video call. And this will be a blessing to a lot of people. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Before you go, can you do me a huge favor and subscribe to the channel? And also want to invite you to join our free private community with thousands of members at godsvoicefamily.com. And lastly, if you thought this testimony was powerful, wait until you check out what I have for you next. It should be on the screen right now. Go ahead, click on that video, and I'll see you there.